Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's great to have you. I am Ruth. I am your host, Ruth McGilligan. Welcome to the Wombynhood Illuminated podcast. And I am joined by the incredible, amazing doula that is Caroline Doherty. It's so nice to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Caroline was here. We had a prep interview, you could say, and it was the funniest thing because the conversation went in all directions to everything but what we were going to talk about. So tonight we don't even know what this conversation is going to unfold into, but that is the beauty of just dropping in and allowing things to come as they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Exactly. So I've introduced you. I've called you a doula.
Yeah.
For lots of people here, they don't know what a doula is. Would you mind sharing?
So a birth doula is somebody who comes and supports the mommy in having her baby the way she wants to have her baby.
Okay.
You know, so it's basically emotional, physical and support for the mum to have her baby whatever way she wants, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Intuitively, you're working intuitively too, you know,
Yeah.
for her needs.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're in the middle of birth, you're not actually concentrating on all the people around you. You're concentrating in within your own self. So basically we have to intuitively think, what does she need, without having to ask questions to the birthing mommy, because she's doing the job she needs to be doing without having to think about what I need, you know.
Yeah. Do I need to take that tablet?
Yeah.
Do I need an epidural? Do I need a sweep? All the things in birth that when you're in the throes of birthing, I imagine is a lot to have thrust upon you in the medical model.
It is. It's a big thing now, definitely. It's very medically driven now. Instead of letting a natural thing be a natural, like birth is natural. We were birthing babies from the beginning of time without all this medical intervention.
Exactly.
You know, in our own time. And everybody is different. So everybody's going to have their birth journey. Some people could birth their baby from their first surge till the baby's in their arms in 5 or 6 hours, and other people may go on for 24 hours. It's giving them mummies the space that they need and not putting pressure on them for their bodies to do what their bodies need.
Yeah.
You know. So
Unfortunately, especially the mums out there, the medical model, you're in a time slot, and whenever you don't fit in that time slot, there's pressure. And I just think like of a bun in the oven, like you don't take it out before it's time. Yeah. You wait till it's fully cooked. I know that's a very strange thing to say, but isn't that true? Like,
so true. Yeah. So true.
And there's a lot of pressure to kind of to fit inside of this time slot. Yeah. And that's where the likes of you comes in then, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of navigating and negotiating with medical protocols whenever you're in the hospital and stuff like that there. But a lot of mummies now has opted for home births because they feel they're more in control. And statistically, home births are the safest place to have your babies. Yeah. Statistically, you know. So a lot of mummies is deciding to have their babies at home, you know. And it's lovely. It's actually a lovely experience. And basically, it's lovely for the babies as well, because the babies has been born into their own microbiome of their mother and father, and not in a medical setting, which is very sterile, and you know it has to be, of course. But actually, studies have shown that babies that's born at home are healthier babies because it's less stress. You know, because you're always going to be linked to your parents, especially your mother, because your mother grew you in her womb and all that there. So energetically, if she's stressed, the baby's going to be stressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keeping things calm, and the mother feeling that like she's in control, but letting herself go, because birth is one of these things that you have to just go with and let nature take its own course, you know. That's a wonderful thing now, definitely. It's very powerful.
It's a big part, I suppose, as you know, so I'm a womb worker, and one of the things that comes up a lot when we're discussing people's birth journey, their own birth, being birthed into the world by their own mum, and then their own birthing journeys as parents, as mummies, is this like lack of trust in their own ability to, well, it's interesting. A lot of the stories are, oh, I don't trust. I didn't trust my body. But at the same time, they knew themselves. They're like, this baby's coming now. And the midwife might be going, no, you're only so far along. And they were like, I know. And they just didn't felt listened to. And then the next thing,
the baby's there.
The baby's there, and but come look what's lying between my legs, as they would say. Do you know what I mean? It's
that has happened many a time, yeah. Because I suppose everybody's unique.
Of course.
Okay, so like one mammy, as I say, could have her baby really, really quickly, and another mammy, first-time mammies anyway, they always have this protocol. It's going to be 12 hours and all that. There, it may be 4 hours, it may be 24 hours. As I say, everybody's unique in their own birthing right, and they do need to be listened to, because you actually know what's going on in your own body, you know. And I love it now because there is a real big revelation happening of pregnant mummies, and they are actually really trusting their own body and knowing that their own body knew how to conceive this baby, knew how to grow this baby, and will know how to birth this baby. You know, so I love it that there's such a great revelation there happening now at the moment, you know.
I would say COVID probably helped with the spike in home births and that as well.
It went up 500%. Wow. Home births in Northern Ireland went up 500%.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so if it was okay then, why would it not be okay now? And then, like, my own mum was birthed by my granny in the house just down the road. Like, my granda left to go and get the doctor, and when he came back, all there was to do was cut the umbilical cord, because she had done it all herself. And this was very, I'm sure the same in your family. It was a very common thing that women birthed themselves, and or had a tribe around them to birth with them, but they did it at home.
My granny had 18 children,
wow,
and she had them, bar the last few at the home births. They were all home births bar the last few. So, and it was her mother came to help her, and then they got the doctor there in the last wee minute, and everything was fine, you know. I do think there was a lot more support then, you know, and a lot more, okay, we're going to do this at your pace. It wasn't right, okay, you're presented at this time, so you've 12 hours now, and if you don't go so, you know, much further, and you presented at 4 centimetres at 10 o'clock in the morning, and if you're not like 6 centimetres by 6 in the evening, we're going to be intervening, you know. There wasn't any of that back then, you know. It was like nature, they let nature take its course.
Everything's so risk adverse now, isn't it? But I just feel like the work that you're doing is so incredible, because it's empowering women to trust their bodies. Can I ask, how did you become a doula? How did this journey begin?
Well, I have 7 children myself.
Wow.
So I do, so I have 7.
What age are they?
So the oldest is 27, and then the next 26, 25, and then 24. And then the next...
Cheekers!
The next one's 21, and then 20, and then a wee 10-year-old. So I had a big gap of almost 10 years.
Wow.
And then I had my last wee one there, so it was lovely. It was so nice. And I always really, really wanted to... I actually was really interested when I had my 6th to become a midwife. But with 6 children under 8 at the time, it was not going to happen, even though I really looked into it and researched it. So then I had my last wee girl in 2014, and so I became a placenta encapsulation specialist first, but I'll go back to that in a minute. But I trained in doula work, so I did in 2017. So I did under Fidant, you know, it's a lady came up and trained us, and we got certified in doula work and all that there.
What's FIDA?
It's just an association, like birth doulas,
a governing body kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So trained under her, and then from that I was my friend's doula, and then my sister's doula, and then the word spread, and it grew organically, you know. It wasn't like I like advertised or anything out there.
Word of mouth.
It was word of, I think this business is word of mouth more than anything else, you know.
Trust, I suppose there's a lot of trust is poured into you as a doula. So.
Yeah, that's right. I just loved being a doula so much. So and I do love being a doula, because it's such a sacred space to hold for any mommy. You know, you're the guardian of that mommy and that daddy at that time, because it's a very, very intense and intimate experience of their life, you know. And so it's nice to have the right people in that room at that time. Very important to have the right people, you know, in the room at that time, you know.
The right kind of energies need to be in the space, and if they don't, that's where Caroline comes in and he's like, right, you out.
Oh God, that's well important. It's very important, you know, because if you haven't the right energy in the room, the mum's adrenaline starts to spike, and adrenaline and oxytocin can't stay in the one space at the one time, you know. So basically, you have to have, everything has to be very, very spot on for them to have a lovely experience, birth experience, you know. Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine sharing her birth story, and it was her first, and she remembers it was in the hospital, and this is a woman who would be quite confident and would speak her mind, but she just felt like she regressed in this moment of being in labour, and she was looking at her husband and wanting him to speak to her for her, because she had shared her birth plan, and she didn't want to have an epidural, and there was all these different things that she was like, no. But obviously in the throes of labour, at one point she looked around in the room, and there was like 7 people in the room, because they had brought in students in a round, and she just was like, and the doctor was talking to these students, and they had, I'm not sure the correct medical term, but where they put the little heart monitor on the baby when they're still inside, and it kept slipping off, and so they kept losing the heartbeat, and so the anxiety was rising, and they were speaking over her, and she was saying what's happening, but they weren't acknowledging her, and she said she just lost her mind and was like, would somebody just speak to me? And she was like, who are all these people? And just lost her mind. But like at the same time, they obviously tended to her for a moment, but there was this like, she just did not feel like she was seen at all in her own experience, and she was quite traumatized after, to be completely honest. There was she had postnatal depression after, and then she went on to have a second child and had a home birth, and completely healed all of that narrative for herself, and had a doula, and had a completely different experience. And that's not to say that every home birth experience is going to be this incredibly blissful thing, I'm sure, but or maybe it is. You probably...
You try your best to make it the best experience. If you're a doula, and you're trying your best to make it the best experience. And you, as being heard is a very important thing whenever you're in labour. So it is, but also don't talk to the mammy when the mammy's having her surges, because that mother is concentrating very, very hard on getting over that surge. And the one side of the brain works with that there to get over that there the surge, where the other side of the brain's your thinking brain,
of course,
and the two won't work together.
No.
So you're disrupting that mommy's flow, you know.
You're getting into the primal body that just knows what to do, and then by asking questions, you're asking to snap out of the primal space. It is actually, when you think of it that way, like every other, I say this a lot because of my rewilding work that I do, that we're domesticated wild animals, and any other wild animal that is birthing, you trust their body in the process. Now, of course, if somebody needs to intervene, you help out, but you know, that's why there are people in the space to help. But for the most part, your body knows what to do.
Oh, absolutely. Your body definitely knows what to do.
It's sad because there's so much fear around birth, isn't there?
But a lot of mummies is reclaiming their inner feminine power, because they're so in tune with their body when they're birthing their baby, that you actually listen to them. If you listen to them and they are telling you, this is the way I'm feeling at the minute, they're 100% right. That's the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they know exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to be left alone without asked any questions. You know, that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
It's while important to make space for them. If that makes sense, does it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure you've seen some incredible things happen. And just for those then, for anybody that has never heard of this before and would never have even considered a home birth because the thought of not being in a medical space would have terrified them, but maybe now through just listening to us, they might have been opening up to the thought of it. Is there I'm assuming you're working along with the midwifery team at times if there is a home birth, and so there is somebody present if something goes wrong, or if there is a need for, like, if this is just not going the way, although all the different ways that a baby can come out, they're pretty much, the body can more or less correct and do what it needs to do. It's very few breach, isn't it, really?
No, there's not a lot of breech babies or anything like that there. There was one breech home birth, but the baby turned at the last minute, and the mum said, I felt a real big movement there.
Wow.
And then the next minute, then the bum came out. So the midwives was there and all that there, but at that stage there was no point in, obviously they called for the ambulance, but by the time the ambulance landed, the baby was born and everything was fine, and the checks were done and everything was perfect. They're very lucky in Northern Ireland, like, they're very lucky because you just apply for a home birth, and obviously if you're low risk, you get everything you want. So basically they get the 2 midwives to come out, and you get the gas and air sent out to you if you feel like you want gas and air and stuff like that there. So there is a lot of support there for a home birth in the north, whereas out here in Donegal, sadly, we don't have any support like that at all, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, but it had happened that there was a few mummies that had her because sometimes babies come really quickly, had their babies at home, and the babies were fine. They did phone the ambulance, and the ambulance came and took them and got them checked and all that there. But everything worked out fine as well. You don't know how quick a baby, like with hypnobirthing, it's such a great tool for birth, for helping you birth your baby and all that there. And sometimes mummies are that in the zone that they don't actually realise they're that far on in their labour journey. And the next month the baby's born, you know.
Wow.
Hypnobirthing is an amazing tool to have in your toolbox for birthing, you know. I think every couple should do hypnobirthing, because the father is as important as the mammy, because he's her support system, you know. And
the anchor, kind of.
He's the teller, keeps her level. And I love whenever I go to births and the father is very vocal in what that his partner wants. I just love seeing that power too coming through, you know. And they're not afraid to say no. In her birth plan, she didn't want that. You know, I just think, yes, good on you, you know, because he is all in whenever he's vocal and being her, like, protector. You know, while she's
biggest advocate.
He's been her biggest advocate, and he's protecting her space, you know. It's just really, it's very nice. It's lovely.
I bet, because it's we're kind of taught, aren't we, as we're growing up, the people to respect, and doctors and medical professions are, if your doctor tells you something, you do it. And obviously, you know, I come from a holistic background. You're from a holistic background, and we have a different, well, I certainly, I can speak for myself, I can't speak for you obviously, but I just feel like there's other ways. There's many ways to skin a cat, and some of them existed for thousands of years and worked really well. And we can lean still on those ancient practices, and sometimes you can just follow your gut intuition and listen when you know. And it's
so
just
important.
It's great to see this rise, and even with the womb work and people connecting in with their womb spaces before, and this is like pre-conception, you know, doing the work and connecting with the soul of the baby before the baby comes, and speaking to it and calling it in and creating their womb as this sacred space, and doing all the work around that emotionally for themselves and for their physicality. I mean, it's great, because that's a lot of the work that I do, and it just, the fact that you said about the divine feminine, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's this real beautiful rise in consciousness
Yeah.
around the power of the feminine form, and that we can be empowered and take back this huge rite of passage from maiden into mother. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a portal.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, have you ever heard of the expression of orgasmic birth?
Yes.
And
there's
have
a great
you-
book. There's a great book out in that. I can't remember who wrote it, but there's a great book out in that. Do you remember? Do you know? Did you read it before? No.
It's not Jane Hardwicke Collins's book.
I'm
no.
not sure. I'm not sure. No.
I
I did read it. It's very good and it's really interesting.
It's just when you're talking about, because I mentioned this to Jason, my husband, and he was like, what is this? And it's like, no, it's changing your perception of the word orgasmic, because we had a discussion in a previous episode about pleasure and how people straight away think sexual pleasure, and there's just this one version of pleasure where you can, like, having a glass of water when you're thirsty, you're like, oh, it's pleasure, you know, you can take great joy out of it. And I was saying orgasmic birthing kind of links in with hypnobirthing when they get into the zone, and the birthing is like a flow, there's ebb and flow, and there's a pulsing, and it changes from being pain to, it's a portal, and this is where the orgasmic birthing comes from. I'm sure you've witnessed that.
A lot of times. So many times, but there was this one time in particular, and it's mostly the mother goes and gets the baby's soul, and whenever she's in labour, this one particular time, and it was such a lovely experience. And the mother was in the pool, and the partner was outside of the pool, but the two of them was hugging each other, but it was this complete quietness. And her mum came in and says to me, what's happening? And I said, the two of them are travelling. The two of them went together to get the baby soul. And within, like, and you just knew it, like you could feel it and the energy of the atmosphere. And it was so lovely, so it was. And she says, oh, right, okay. And then whenever the two of them came back into the present, and he says, what was that? You know? Because usually it's the mommy that goes, but he went with her because they're definitely so connected in their birth journey. He was all in 100%, and it was amazing. So it was, and I have actually a photograph of that particular moment. It was lovely. And they had a home birth, and it was just, it was very sacred at that moment in time, you know. And she and her mother was there, and she could actually feel it too. It was very empowering, you know.
What an honour and privilege to be part of that and to witness that. And this is the thing, birth is so sacred. It's holy. Like I literally was saying to Jason, you know, the body is the temple, and the womb is the altar from which the ethereal or the spirit or the soul is made manifest physically in this world. It's the only place in the whole world where something that was once a thought becomes a reality. I mean, we constantly are manifesting and creating our realities, but this is like an actual thing, a being. And it's like, it's so sacred, and I'm sure you can't put into words. There's nothing can explain that journey for people who have not witnessed it or experienced it themselves. But to experience, like I've been very fortunate to have friends who have children who've had both experiences, and that's not to say that they haven't had some of them very positive, really fantastic members of the midwifery team and all the rest who really went out of their way to create a beautiful experience. But just the difference of being in their home, and there's nothing to do then. You're birthed and you can lie on your sofa, and your mummy or your partner can bring you a cup of tea and whatever you want to eat out of your own house, and you can just, there's nothing to do. It's like, I'm here, I'm already home. It's like, I can only imagine how peaceful and centering and grounding that experience can be for this huge portal that is motherhood.
It is. It's really amazing. So it is, and it's a real honour for me that people trust me enough to be there to help in any way, you know.
It's your energy, Caroline, though.
Do you think so?
Oh, absolutely. You have such a lovely, maternal, warm, grounding, loving energy. Like, do you know what I mean? Of course, they would want you to be their doula. It makes sense. You're a mommy of 7. You're a pro.
Yeah.
If there's something comes with that kind of wisdom. Like, you're an elder in a way.
Yeah.
Because you've been through the journey yourself 7 times.
Yeah.
And now you hold that for others, and you've seen the whole from in the hospital to home and all and everything in between.
Yeah.
So
there is no comparison really, and people some high risk people have to go to the hospital. We understand all that there, but there's really no comparison to a home birth and a hospital birth, really. You know, and there's some fantastic midwives also. You know,
of course, yeah.
But there is definitely something very intimate whenever you're in your own home doing it, you know.
I just think about from, obviously we know that the birth story that you were, and we both were a seed. We were an egg inside of our mum, inside of our grandmother's womb, and this lineage piece that is there, an ancestral piece, and I think there's just like a great remembrance in your bones when you're going through something like that, that this is what has been done for millennia.
Yeah.
This has been done for such a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it just feels and lands right in the body.
It does, yeah.
Because the sounds that people make, I'm a big advocate for expression of sound. I'm sure there's a difference. Do you notice a difference?
Yeah. There's one particular sound that you know, right, this baby's going to be here now very shortly. And every woman makes that sound.
Wow.
Yeah, as real animalistic
guttural
sound. It's like whenever one world meets the other, and the baby's going to be here very shortly.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's lovely.
The veil between worlds thins. Because in the work that I do for trauma release, it's funny, it's for women who are mothers. Whenever they go through this journey, a lot of them will say, I didn't even know I could make that sound. The only time I've made a sound like that was when I was giving birth. And I'm just like, isn't it funny, this primal sound that you give yourself permission to make that sound? And does it happen in the hospital too?
Oh yeah, it would happen in the hospital as well. Yeah, it's actually an involuntary thing that actually happens, you know. And one mother was looking back at the video and says, "Was that me made that noise?" I said, "Yes, that was you made that noise." So it was
the warrioress just coming forth for the last push.
Yeah, as I say, if you don't look like a goddess when you're giving birth, there's something wrong. As in, somebody's energy is annoying your energy, you know, that kind of way. So, but everybody who gives birth in any which way, form or shape, it's just, they're definitely in their own feminine power, you know, and any noise is acceptable. Because it's all good.
Exactly. It's all welcome. Everything that could possibly happen. And no matter what way you want to sit or stand or lie, it's all welcome.
Yeah, it is. And you do see if you really listen to your body and go into the position that your body wants to go into, it's the best position for you. Yeah. Should it be hanging on a rebozo scarf from the ceiling, you know, whatever.
I remember seeing a video, and it was of in like a Thai hospital, and the midwives were all these like elders, and it was like just real like a room, and it was a rope from the ceiling and another thing off the wall and a potty squatty thing in the ground, and they were like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Oh, this is our birthing suite." We're like, so simplistic, but they were like, so that in any direction, in any way that she wants to, it's all covered here, and there's things there to support her in doing it. I was like, wow, isn't that incredible?
Oh, so amazing.
That's like, it's so simplistic, yet every need was met.
That was brilliant.
Amazing. But so you mentioned about the placenta encapsulation.
Oh, yes.
So that was the start of your journey.
That was the start of my journey.
How did that even come about?
That's a long story.
please share. Fascinating.
So whenever I was having I had a big gap of nearly 10 years from my 6th born until my wee 7th born baby. And I thought, and I was almost 40 then, so I thought, right, like, because I had postnatal depression with my second wee boy, just because that was the way my body reacted to it and all that there. And so I was always very conscious then with every baby to watch out for the signs and signals. Now, he's 26, and back then nobody talked about postnatal depression, so you were in it on your own kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then whenever it came to her, and I thought, oh God, I'm nearly 40, I could have postnatal depression again. So I started to do a bit of research on how I could naturally avoid postnatal depression,
Right.
and enjoy my 4th trimester. And so with my research, I found out about placenta, how do you pronounce it now? I can't even get the word out, but it's consuming your placenta.
Okay.
And I read about how there's like 94 different vitamins, minerals and nutrients in this placenta, and it's very bioavailable to the mommy who grew the placenta. So basically this beautiful organ, which is like a temporary organ that grew your baby and nourished your baby, can then nourish you. And if you're breastfeeding, you're nourishing your baby. So it's a whole circle, you know. But what I liked about it was there was like a survey of like 3,000 mummies questioned, and they said that they consumed their placenta and they found that they had so much more energy. They had very little or no baby blues.
Wow.
And they had no postnatal depression or very little compared to the times before when they didn't consume their placenta, you know. And they had loads of energy, loads of milk, because I breastfed all my children, loads of breast milk supply was fantastic. And I thought, well, oh my God, I grew this and it's bioavailable. So basically, when I'm consuming my placenta, it's going onto the cellular level.
Is that what bioavailable means?
Like your body kind of really recognises it and thinks, oh, right, I recognise this is my own. So it's really going to take all the nutrients and put them into a cellular level. So then basically then the energy comes out and levels your hormones and everything. And I just thought, gosh, I would love to do that. So I was looking then to see could I get anybody to do to encapsulate my placenta, but I couldn't get nobody. So the thought left my head. And then my sister, she had her baby 11 months later. And she says, oh, remember that thing you were saying? I say. And so she looked for somebody to do her placenta. And she couldn't find nobody. So I just thought, do you know this? For the sake of my children, for my own girls and my sisters, and for my son's partners, I'm going to learn to do this.
Wow.
For them. So I went and trained then in 2016 to do the placenta encapsulation, and I did my sisters then, and I did my friends, and then I did this lady who just contacted me out of the blue, and she must have told the whole country because it just grew very organically, you know, at that, and I got really, really busy with it, and it's such a sacred, and with like the same as a birth doula, this organ is such a sacred organ, and when you take this organ, you have to really be in a good frame of mind to work on this organ, because your energies is going into the placenta, you know. So I would never, if I was in bad form, I would go out and ground, and I would help myself to get into a positive state, meditate a wee bit and stuff like that there, and then I would work on the placenta, because this mommy deserves all the goodness, you know, deserves every bit of goodness, and I would sing nice, happy, upbeat songs and think of how this is going to heal this mommy, this placenta is going to heal this mommy, so this mommy is going to have the loveliest 4th trimester experience with her wee baby, you know. I love that. I actually love the fact that I can give that to somebody else, you know.
So your sister was the first person you did it for?
Well, no, she didn't have. So it was my friend. She had her baby first before my sister.
Oh, right.
So then it kind of she had her baby and all that there. But there's just something lovely looking at the placenta that grew your wee nephew. Do you know that kind of way? But all placentas are beautiful. They are. And not a lot of people would say that if they've seen the placentas, but I think they're so beautiful. They're the tree of life.
You literally can see the tree. Yeah.
They're the tree of life. And sure, how could you not love the placenta? It's given you this beautiful baby. You know?
It's your baby's first ever home.
Yeah.
So much to be thankful for the wee safe container that it was. Yeah.
It's lovely.
And have you had reports then, feedback from people about?
Lots and lots. Much like because I would talk to the mummies maybe a month later and say, how are you feeling? How are you getting on? And a lot of the first time mummies may not get it done. But second time around then they say, I need a wee bit of help. Because they didn't realise how exhausted they would be with looking after another whole human being that they expelled out of their body, and they were handed straight away. Like if you got an operation, you
would get a break.
You'd get rest.
Yeah, exactly.
But once you have your baby, of course you want to have your baby on you all the time and all that there, but you also need to rest. You know, that kind of way. So you're kind of trying to do it all and be a super person. And maybe only getting 2 hours sleep a night or something sometimes, you know, or being waking 3 or 4 times at night. So it is quite exhausting all there. So lots of second time mummies would say, oh, you know, I want to invest in my experience. So basically they do their placenta encapsulation then, so do, and they do report back that it's like a different experience altogether. It's like totally like chalk and cheese, where they were exhausted and they were fatigued and just their hormones was all over the place with the first, and then with the second one was all just plain level sailing. But that's amazing.
My funny again friend, 2 children, one she did it, one she did not. The second one, like you say, was the one she did, and she was like, it's like the best thing, it is life changing, everybody needs to do this. She just was it was probably you did it for her, and she was going around telling everybody that this is, you have to do this. If you're like, she is like, she sings about it to any new mummy to be. And when you think about it again, like I was saying about us being wild animal, like domesticated wild animals. Other mammals eat their placenta. So
I know
it's not this completely alien thing, because I know there are people who will hear that and be like, oh but it's again been around for a long time. What is the process?
So basically I would take the placenta home, I would wash it in cool boiled water, and I would examine it and see that it's all intact, you know, and then I would just dehydrate it and grind up and make it into capsules.
Wow. And do you have like a space to
I do, yeah, you have to have a space. So you do. So I have a wee cabin out the back of the house, so it's all like it's like a catering, it's a
sterile
but like all the stainless steel sinks, 2 sinks, one for washing my hands, one for the placenta and all that there, and the dehydrator, and it's all there. And I only ever do 1 placenta at a time, because you have to remember the placenta has a microbiome as well. Do you know? So you don't want to and also you're worrying about cross contamination, which won't happen then if you only do 1 at a time, you know. So, but also it's the microbiome is very important, you know, because you're like, if you have 2, like my energy is mixing with your energy now at the moment, where if you 2 placentas dehydrating together, the energies is mixing, so you don't want that. You know, you want it to be very unique. That mummy's placenta to go back to her very uniquely, with most of her energy and some of my good energy, obviously.
Of course, you know? Of course, all the intention and love you're pouring in. And how long of a process is it?
So it depends on the placenta, you know. Some placentas takes a wee bit longer to dehydrate, so it could take 24 hours, could take 36 hours and all that there. But I love to get the placenta capsules back to the mummy within the 3 days of collecting it. Wow. Because 3 days is the baby blues stage. Day 3, your baby blues will start to hit. And you might not ever have baby blues, but
the tiredness.
It's exhaustion and all that there. So you want to get them back, the capsules back to the mummies as soon as possible.
And you know? So if someone had a baby in hospital, how and if you, like, I'm sure you have clients that you're maybe not a doula for, but you do the encapsulation for. So how would somebody, just for if anybody's listening and or watching and they're like, oh, I'm interested, what does Caroline do? I've scheduled to go into a hospital for this birth. So if it was I can understand a home birth would be quite easy access, but in the hospital, how does that work?
So basically, if you're thinking about having your placenta encapsulated, lots of mummies would give me a phone call or give me a wee text message, or a lot of them would contact me through Instagram, you know, or email, and they'd say, look, can you give me more information on the placenta encapsulation? So I would send more information, and then they'd book in, And I like to work with electric cool boxes. You know, a lot of encapsulation specialists just let you get your own like picnic cool box with ice blocks. But if you're going to have your baby in the hospital, like, you don't know how long you'll be, and them ice blocks could be defrosted.
Yeah.
So I will provide the mommy with an electric cool box. So basically, when the placenta goes into the cool box, in a sterile container, obviously, the daddy plugs it in, and it's safe as safe can be until I come and lift it. And then he just gives me a wee text or a wee call to say such and such had the baby, and I'd say, okay, I'll be there. And like, I could be in Belfast collecting a placenta or Enniskillen, so I'd say, okay, I might not be there for a few hours, but I will be there tonight, you know.
Wow.
And if the baby's born in the middle of the night, the daddy just takes the placenta box home with him and gives me a call in the morning when he's a wee sleep, and I'll come and take the.
You must be running the length and breadth of the country, Caroline.
I'm putting up the miles.
Wow.
But you know this, I love being able to do this for mummies because I couldn't get it done for me. So I love being able to do this because you're giving them the gift of a great fourth trimester.
Of course. So all those lost vitamins and minerals coming back into your body again. Yeah. It's essentially your breast milk. You're giving yourself back what you're giving to your baby.
Yeah. You're drip feeding yourself all your hormones that just left you all of a sudden whenever you birthed the placenta, you know.
And it was a 9-month investment into all them vitamins and minerals.
Yeah.
It makes sense to put that back in for. It's actually a lovely kind of loop around, isn't it? The full circle, 9 months of birth and are the process to birth, and then another 9 months after of like you have the access to those 9 months after. And like, how many tablets would you recommend somebody to have? Is it again just intuitive what you feel, or?
Well, some people, they would advise 1 capsule 3 times a day.
Okay.
But if you felt you only needed 2, you could have 2. But you can actually take up to 6 capsules a day, but no more than that, you know. But lots of the time it's very, very intuitive what you feel you want. And if you forget to take a capsule, it means you didn't need it. Yeah. Because if you need it,
you'll not forget.
You'll not forget. No,
it's just,
definitely.
I find it interesting because I know one of your favourite sayings, and it linked into something that came into my mind when you're saying about, you know, how you want to do this for other mummies because you didn't have it done for yourself, and you understand how exhausting it is. Yeah. And it's just because this modern world that we live in is not set up. Yeah. You know, you are, like your words were, you're trying to be superhuman. Do everything by yourself. But realistically, we come from tribal community. Yeah. What's your wee saying that you love? I love that saying too.
I love the saying, it takes a village.
Yes.
I love that saying because it absolutely takes a village, because we do try as human beings to be out on our own, but we're not supposed to be out on our own. We're supposed to accept help when help is offered. And take it with open arms. Even if it should be just somebody coming in and saying, I'll fold your laundry for you.
Absolutely.
Or I'll sweep your floor.
Or I've brought down a dinner for you.
It's such a good gift to bring a mommy and a daddy that's just after having a baby a dinner. Yes. It's such a gift.
Exactly. Especially if it's a household filled with other children and it's, you know, you're trying to navigate this massive change as well as life still continues as normal. Yeah. Or for the first time parent who it's all new to them. Yeah. I can't remember what culture it's in. You might know, but they have this like tradition where the mother's feet do not touch the ground for the first 40 days.
It's in India.
It's in India.
Yeah, because I have a really good friend that's an Indian lady, and oh gosh, they really rally around their mummies there. I'll tell you, they don't get out of the bed for the first 40 days, and they really give them all the beautiful nourishing herbs. It's like amazing, all the foods that's really so very, very what would you say, like empowering to their healing process, you know. Yeah, it's in India. It's lovely. It's great.
I was at a Closing the Bones training in London there the other week, and there was a lady present on the training, and she was Indian, and that's what she was sharing after her birth. Her mum, like, she got massages, she had reflexology because Ayurvedic diet.
Yes.
And she was bathed. She had also went through a loss, and her mum did all this for her through all that as well.
Yeah.
And just was there and practically moved into the house for 40 days to really tend to her. And I'm just like, because no one knows how, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like women know how to tend to woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we know what we need, and other mommies know what mommies need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be a mommy, but, you know, it's just that knowing, I know exactly where you're at right now, because I remember what that is. And how beautiful if we had our sisters and our soul sisters and our tribe turn up for us and help us through that.
That'd be so
transition.
Amazing. Yeah. And we don't really get that in Ireland anymore. I think life's too busy, I think, you know, which is a wild pity, you know.
But I think it is the superhuman kind of thing too, that you kind of almost feel like you're a failure if you have help. Yeah. It's so, and it's such a toxic mindset, because no man's an island. None of us are meant to exist alone. We need each other.
Definitely, 100%. And
especially during that time.
Yeah, because you are exhausted.
Of course.
Like, you're so depleted in a lot of stuff after you have a baby, and then you're trying to, if you do decide you're going to breastfeed, you are for the first 6 weeks, that baby's going to be attached to you, just you know. And a lot of people, you know, gets very, very malnourished during that time, because they're trying to maybe, if they do have other babies, look after this baby and look after the other babies, and you know, in the house, and it's hard.
A lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I always think about how out in the Amazon and that there's tribes there that if they're breastfeeding, a mommy needs a rest, another mommy who's breastfeeding will just breastfeed the baby.
I know, isn't that amazing?
And I'm just like, now obviously all their gut biomes are all the same, because they're all eating the same foods and everything. They're because they're a tribe. Yeah. And I'm just like, isn't that so beautiful? Like, I know this is off topic, but I saw a photograph, and it was on one of the social media platforms, and it was during the Amazon being burnt, like one of the fires, and again this tribe, an indigenous tribe, and the mummy's feeding a wee baby pig, a wild pig from her breast, and I was like, I just made me cry. I was just like, how beautiful is that? Because she just saw a wee baby in need. And I know that sounds crazy, might sound strange to some people, but the image is actually really powerful, and it just was about how love is universal, maternal love is universal, and we all, human and animal, we're all, you know, connected on this planet, like, but that's what I loved about the closing of the bones training. I know you yourself, you've trained in closing the bones a long time ago.
How did you find that?
It was great. Have you done many closings?
No, I haven't done. No, I've been that busy with the doula work and the encapsulation. No, I haven't done very many at all. You know, but it's a real sacred experience as well.
It's so hard. I've said this,
but you need the right people around you as well.
You do. And so the training, right, I've had my own bones closed as part of the training, and through, because of another portal of birthing portal I had been through myself, I had a closing as well, with my friends, and intuitively, before any of this had happened, I had been speaking to my friends and soul sisters in the womanhood community about doing like a communal grief ceremony and having closing, because in my womb work we have this part of the one-to-one work called Restoring the Soul, and we work with rebosos, and it's basically a mini closing, and it's so powerful and so transformative. And I was just like, there's so many women need this, and if in that lovely setting of a circle, you know, we could go into triads of 3, and each woman could tend, 2 women could tend to 1 woman, and this is what I had this vision. And then I went through some experiences myself, and I had my own closing, and then I went to the training. And the thing that I took away from that is there's such a power in community in closing the bones, because I've done the one-to-one closing, and it is really powerful. Like, I love that work, but having women who you love and trust around you, showing up for just you, and it can be kind of confronting as well, because you are the center of the universe in that moment, and that can be like a lot, because as a woman we're always like, you get a compliment and it's like, oh geez, this old thing, you know, like we're always deflecting, aren't we? Instead of saying thank you and
Yeah.
receiving it with grace. You know, there's this self-deprecation that's kind of sewn into our cultural story as women, but it's having that like community of women close you. And I'm not sure what your training was like. The lady that trained us, her lineage was from Brazil.
Oh, wow.
And so it was passed
Yeah.
through that lineage, and I want to honor that
Yeah.
that lineage, because we'll drop the name here because her name escapes me. I just feel it's really important
Yeah.
to name the elder who
Yeah.
passed this down to
Yeah.
Nicola, who
Yeah.
was Nicola Goodall, who trained us, so that, you know, you're honouring that lineage, because this is again an ancient sacred practice
Yeah.
that is held with great respect
Mhm.
in these tribal communities. So we have to really
Yeah.
honour that as
Yeah.
well. But
It's so healing, but
it's so powerful.
Yeah.
To
Yeah. So healing.
did they wash the body in yours?
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
Folks, any woman who's ever, and you can have a closing of the bones. You don't have to necessarily have birth. Obviously, that's where it began.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
postpartum, or if you have lost and you're postpartum due to miscarrying, but you can have it for any kind of closing of a closing of a period in your life, you know, of any kind of grief. Like, it's
Yeah.
such a powerful, but in this particular capacity,
Yeah.
having a woman that you love wash your body
Yeah.
and like tend to you so lovingly, so tenderly, so maternal,
Yeah.
and then to dry you off. And there's, as you know, everyone's gifting herbs or gifting flowers or gifting all this love and intention into the waters, these sacred waters representing the sacred waters of the womb, and binding the body. It's again, like yourself, you can't put into words these
so
things. You have to just experience it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's so beyond words, isn't it?
And a lot of people would be thinking, "Oh my God, what is that about?" But it's very until you actually experience that, you can't really.
You just
comment.
you can't explain. You cannot explain the healing that
Yeah.
happens, not just for the woman receiving the closing,
Yeah.
but for every woman there. The
Yeah.
healing. It's like it's a reciprocal thing. It's not
Yeah.
just one way, and it
Yeah.
is. It's just so moving. Everybody's always in tears because it's so beautiful, and there's laughter as well.
Yeah, it's a great way to release a lot of stuff. You know, and
absolutely.
what has been, and what will be. You know,
Exactly. And just so you know, for the sake of what is a closing, the bones, it's very like those words, there's a practical element to it. So obviously a mother's hips will shift wider apart to birth. And so it's closing the hips back together. You bind the hips and you're bringing everything back into position. But it's also allowing mummy's soul to restore to knowing that she is now a single entity again. She may be mother.
Yeah.
And she may have been two entities for 9 months, but now she is just back to it's a remembrance, isn't it, really? And calling you back into yourself to be like, oh yes, that's right. Because funny, this is a conversation that came up with a friend of mine as well during the closing, because I stayed in London for the week, and she was saying about how after giving birth, all the focus is on the baby.
Oh, so much so. Yeah.
Like mommy's kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's so heartbreaking because she's the one that's done all this work.
Yeah.
You know,
Hard work.
Hard work. Exactly. And actually there was again a video on social media, and it was all these family members coming into the hospital room, and they were all making their way over to see the baby, but the daddy went straight to the mommy. Have you seen that?
I seen that one.
It's like, my heart.
Her father went to her.
Yeah.
When everybody else went to the baby.
Yes. And I was just like, look, isn't that such a comment on even us? You know, it's all the focus is on the baby, and remember mummies, folks. Remember the mummies. You know, and
let the mummies hold the babies.
Yes.
But tend to the mummy's needs.
Yes.
Because the mummy really wants to hold the baby.
Yes, exactly.
Because everybody wants to hold the baby, but somebody needs to hold the mummy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, what closing is. Closing the bones is holding the mummy.
Yeah.
And holding the mummy's mummy too.
Yeah.
If she's been present, if she's there.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. And but like you say, it's all about the energy, and it's about the right energy, and the people that are there have to understand what they're there for, and they have to be willing to be respectful of the fact that this is about that person, and it's on their terms. We discussed, naturally, with the training being in London, there's a lot of diversity in London. I mean, there's lots of diversity here now too, but it was about also honouring what Mommy's version of the closing would be in relation to her views and her beliefs and her faith. I thought that was so beautiful as well, to honour her lineage, you know.
And there's so many different as you say, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
But really, it's still everybody's way is so different to your own, but you're always learning something. Do you know what I mean? You're thinking, oh God, that's so nice, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to know. Those herbs are good to know. Yeah,
jot them down.
But you're a big advocate of homeopathy as well.
I am. I love homeopathic remedies. I absolutely love them. So do. I've been learning about homeopathy now about 13 years, maybe, or 12 or 13 years. But I do take homeopathic remedies into the birth space as well. So I do, because, and it's so strange because, like, you would be there present with a mommy, and the next minute you would see that her energy's changing, and you just know exactly what remedy she wants. And like, obviously we would have had this conversation before she would have went into labour, because we would have spoke a lot before that, and she knows and she trusts that I know which remedy she needs, you know. But I would still say to her, you know, maybe I think you might need this for this reason. But sometimes the surges is on top of one another, so you don't get the chance to say too much.
Can't get the words in.
So I would say, you know, to them, if your surges is really close together and I see that you need a remedy, I might just give you the remedy. Are you comfortable with that? Yeah. And they'd say, yeah.
It's always seeking permission, isn't it?
Yeah,
always,
you have to. You always have to ask,
of course,
before you go ahead, you know, and do it.
Yeah.
And it does help so because sometimes you can get stuck in a state, and that homeopathic remedy just releases you out of that state. And so then you have a much more comfortable journey where you need to be.
When you and I met for the first time, like, I have taken homeopathic remedies, right? But I'll be completely honest, total ignorance. Yeah. And so I'm going to ask you, just because you hear these things, homeopathy and all the rest, what is a homeopathic remedy? What exactly is it made of? Because I remember we got the wee sugar balls, so to speak. Yeah. So what are they?
So that is the sugar pillu. It's called a pillu. Wee sucrose ball, as it called a pillu, and basically, it's a water energy being installed into that vessel so that you can consume it. You know, and basically homeopathy is like treating like. So a homeopathic remedy can be made out of anything, but it's diluted down that many times that there's actually nothing left of the initial product that it's made out of. Okay. So water memory is like an energy. So it's an energy healing, you know. Yeah. Homeopathic remedies is, no, you're right. Homeopathic remedies is an energetic healing, so it is, and absolutely, I actually used to think it was a load of bunkum, to be honest. And then I had a really bad head injury 13 years ago, and for 6 months I was like just isolated to the bedroom because I had major headaches. I had like lights fire, like when I closed my eyelids, lights firing on me, and I couldn't really sleep, and I was like, it was a torment for 6 months. And my sister says to me, go to a homeopath. So I went to a homeopath, and within 2 days I was 90% better.
Can I just pull out a wee thread here? You said about your head injury. I feel like we need to explain how severe this head injury was, because this was a pretty severe head injury we're talking about, and you ended up healing it with homeopathy. Yeah. Can you tell us the story?
So I was up a ladder, a non-slip ladder that slipped, and I held on tight to the ladder, and I banged my head twice there, and I cracked my sternum, and I damaged my shin. And I was way up the ladder. But yeah, so went to the hospital, got all the usual stuff done, taking all the stuff that the doctor gave me to try and heal it, and no, for 6 months nothing worked. Everything I tried, nothing worked. And then my sister, who is actually a nurse, she says, go to the homeopath. And so we have a local homeopath, which has 30 years experience. And she spoke to me for about half an hour and she gave me this wee sweet. And I looked at her as if to say, are you joking? So she says, take this now and take another one in about 3 hours and take another one before you go to sleep and ring me tomorrow morning. So, yeah, it just helped so much. But I have to say, there was 3 lobes of my brain damaged. That's how badly damaged my head was. And the specialist said that because when you close your eyes and you see all these lights flashing as your wee, I think he says like neurons or something, or electrons was trying to connect to heal, but they couldn't. So I was basically stuck in a state. So this homeopathic remedy took me out of that state and helped my neurons or whatever is going on.
Your neural pathways to connect again.
Connect, yeah.
Wow.
So it's amazing. So I phoned her the next day and I says, I'm actually about 60% better. She says, right, do the same with them remedies and ring me tomorrow again. And excuse me. And I says, that's no bother. And I did it and I was 90% better. So it was like basically my healing journey then started, and I started thinking, right, there must be something in this homeopathy. So I started to learn as much as it was like a light bulb moment actually, whenever I felt 90% healed after 2 days of these wee pill use. Yeah. Whereas for 6 months I was doing everything that was handed to me.
And now upon reflection, knowing, and what was she giving you?
Oh, Nat Sulph. She was giving me a homeopathic remedy called Nat Sulph. It was basically the number 1 remedy for head injuries. Wow. Yeah, well, arnica is the number 1 remedy for concussion, and everybody knows about arnica.
No, they don't, because I didn't. There you go. Can never make these assumptions. I have not a clue. Arnica. Wow. Okay.
Everybody knew.
Notepads out, everybody. Okay, arnica. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the number 1 remedy for concussions. Okay. And then for a head injury, if it continues and the arnica doesn't clear that energy, you would take Nat Sulph. Wow. And basically it was like a light bulb was turned on in my, and I wanted to learn everything. It was like I was living under
the irony. The light bulb came on in your brain where the injury was to say, this is where you need to go.
Aye. So that's basically what I says, I need to learn all about this now, because this definitely is the only thing that helped me, and I was really consumed with wanting more knowledge.
Of course, yeah. Oh, I know that. Consumption well. Yeah. Constantly. Yeah. Homeopathy is on the list of things that I want to look at. Yeah. I have the book on, have you heard of the book on St. Bridget's healing? No. There's a St. Bridget, or
patron saint, yeah.
Or the goddess Bridget, worked a lot with, it was homeopathy, it was healing with herbs. Yeah. And there's actually a book, I'll drop it here for those watching, and we'll put it in the show notes for those who are listening on one of the streaming services, of the name of this book. But it has actual remedies as well, homeopathy remedies in it, and they're really powerful. I have not used them myself, full transparency, have not got round to it yet. But a friend of ours, she now is a qualified homeopath, and she's also Ayurvedic. She does Ayurvedic work, and she was the one that told me about this book, because she's had like incredible results from what's in the book. Yeah,
that's amazing. It is so amazing. Like any remedy, the remedies is made out of different substances and stuff like that there. But basically, me and my sister was driving to like Letterkenny one day, and there was this woman walking on the street, and I says to her, oh my God, look at that woman, she's so needs in that mirror. Because you can actually see physicalities of a remedy in people. Wow. Yeah, and that mirror is a massive big feminine remedy. It's nearly
how do you
it's natrum muratium or something, but we call it nat mur. Okay. So basic, and sepia is another big feminine remedy. Them 2 remedies there, every woman in their lifetime needs nat mur or sepia sometime in their life. So sepia is actually called the marriage saver. Wow. Okay. Yes.
I'll never need that. No, I'm good. So Jason might disagree, but
and you know this, it's basically your husband has never changed, and he's always been the really good supportive person, but you have changed in your opinion of him, and you just want to tell him to leave you alone and go away. It's actually really good for like getting your love life back on track with your husband, you know.
Yeah, wow.
Because a lot of time in a sepia state, you wouldn't feel like any kind of intimacy or anything.
So low libido,
yes,
disconnected from your feminine power, really.
So disconnected.
No self-expression.
Yeah.
Right, okay, interesting.
There's
a few more... There's a few more we take at home, wee bits of medicine for you there today, folks.
Yeah,
sepia
Natmure. Do, like, if you want to find out more about it, just go Google Materia Medica of sepia or Materia Medica of Natmure. A lot of us can really relate to both women and some men as well with sepia, you know. But yeah, it really is interesting. I just love everything to do with homeopathy, you know. But I love my herbs as well, and my essential oils, because I take essential oils to births as well, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
they kind of all work hand in hand.
Oh, they do,
don't they?
So much.
The reason I was interested in the Bridget book is because I really feel like I went on a real journey of ancestry and connecting in with my bloodline, my lineage, and I just feel like it's something. There's lots of people doing brilliant work at the moment, bringing back ancestral practices of Ireland, because so much was lost with colonialisation. But to connect in with what is the homeopathy of Ireland, you know what I mean? Because if you're from Ireland, I'd imagine that you would respond even better and quicker.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
A lady says to me one day there, because the full moon there was on the 12th, and like, you know how that affects a lot of us. Yeah. And a lady says to me, there has to be a remedy for the full moon. I says, it's called Lunarius or something like that there. Oh. Yes. And she's, I just knew there had to be a homeopathic remedy for the full moon.
Is there a remedy that you've discovered for men that is like just like sepia and Natmure would be for women? Is there one that for men that you've noticed?
I suppose not really. No, not really. No, I haven't really. No, but it's just because I know Natmure really helped me, and sepia would have helped me at times. You know, like, especially around your menstrual cycle. Yeah. Them two remedies is very, very powerful. You know. So. It's a wonder I didn't feel like having one of them. But once you read the Materia Medica of either of them, you think, oh God, yes. You know,
isn't it funny how we are all in sync, we're all connected. That there's themes and patterns that seem to recur. That's why I'm interested for men. I must actually do a wee bit of research on that, or even potentially speak to a homeopath to
definitely see. Like, basically homeopathy brings you back to your most powerful vital force, you know, and that's the basic description of it. So if you're kind of out of balance a wee bit in any way, shape or form, and sometimes it could be just somebody coming towards you and saying, hello, how you doing? And that could put you out. That could put your whole energetic field out. And so basically, whatever way you're feeling, if you match that to the homeopathic remedy, you will clear that energy off your space, you know, and it definitely it's just balancing out your vital force, and every one of us has a vital force.
I think it's like two magnets that if you put the two of the same, one will repel, isn't that right? Yeah, I'm right, aren't I? Yeah. If you put two magnets the same, one will repel. So it's kind of like doing that, isn't it? So you kind of
clear the energy.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Before we finish, there's something I just wanted to ask you. If you had one healing practice or a quote or a saying that you found really illuminating in your own healing journey, what would it be? What's your big takeaway thing? I know, I hear it in my head before you speak.
About the village?
Yes.
It takes a village. Yeah. And except for me that wanted to be the super mummy and do everything herself and not accept any help, to surrender. Surrendering is a massive thing during birth also. But so to surrender to people when they want to help you and say, okay. Like, I used to be this person who didn't think people could load my dishwasher properly, to now I load away, work away. It's great. So definitely surrender and let people help you. It does absolutely take a village to help the mommy to raise her child the way she wants to raise her child. You know, because the mother knows how to do it. She just sometimes doesn't have the time because she has to do all this over here and this over here, and then the child's here. And so basically, if somebody takes over doing this and somebody does this, and she can focus on her child. So it takes a village to help the mummy to raise the child the way she wants to raise the child.
I love that. I love that so much. Because the other side of it takes a village is, and I'm sure you would agree, is to ask for help, to empower yourself to actually say, you know what, I am drowning.
Yeah.
Can you please help me?
Yeah.
So it would be great if somebody would run me around to dinner.
Yeah.
Or take such and such out for a couple of hours or clean this part of the house. Or
yeah. Whenever I had the sixth child now, the oldest was 7.5 whenever he was born. And my friend used to come every day and she'd let herself in, she'd peel the spuds, she'd leave them in the water, and she'd be there 15 minutes away, clean around. I might be in my bed, but this is what she would do every day for the first 6 weeks. And that act of kindness there, I'll never forget her for it. Of course. And I always say to her, remember when you used to come in to the house and peel the spuds? Like, this was 8 people she was peeling spuds. Well, 7 because the baby wasn't eating spuds. But yeah, you know, it was such a lovely thing for her to do, you know, whenever I was tending to the rest of the children and stuff like that there. And it was amazing.
It's the simple things, really.
Yeah. And she's, sure, it was only 10 minutes. 10 minutes to her was maybe a half an hour to me, because I would be interrupted every 3 minutes. Say, Mommy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm sure you probably came down the stairs and just wanted to cry. It's like, thank you so much for peeling this for that many people as well. Oh my goodness. Listen,
she's
Caroline,
worth her weight.
Definitely, we all need friends like that. Definitely, we all need our soul sisters. Before we finish, I've just remembered. So, as in our previous episodes, we do a card pull for every session, and today's deck is the Magdalene Oracle deck. And between myself and Caroline, we pulled the card. I shuffled and she pulled. And the card we pulled was Crucifixion, which is interesting. So, I hope this is a piece of medicine for whoever hears it now. You are causing yourself much unnecessary suffering by thinking that you need to improve in some way before you can find peace and fulfillment. For much of your life, you have tried to hide the parts of you that you don't think are lovable. Yet the things you repress or hide resurface through external situations until you learn to accept and love them. A world of infinite possibilities awaits you if you just learn to be yourself and love yourself as you are. I feel like that's speaking to the mammies, isn't it, really, there?
It is.
Inside you are shining like a star. Allow the light of your star to shine forth, and you will find the people will love you just as you are. Over the coming weeks, pay close attention to your thoughts. When you find yourself thinking negatively or fearfully, consciously transform that thought into a loving one and continue doing this until the cycle is broken. This will take time, dedication and perseverance, but the rewards will eventually be great. I feel like that card's saying that we don't need to hang ourselves on a cross. You know, crucifixion. Yeah. We can have people come and help us. Yeah. And we get to love yourself enough.
Relative to what we were speaking about.
Yeah, I feel it always is. But listen, Caroline, thank you so much. Just before we go, for anybody that wants to reach out to Caroline, you can find Caroline on Instagram or Google. Google is the best place. You're not a big social media person, really, are you? No, you don't need it. It's all word of mouth, really. It's
basically all word of mouth, yeah. So
and you cover Donegal and Northern Ireland, really, don't you?
I cover a wide area, so so, lots of, because I live basically on the border, of Derry. I cover a lot of Northern Ireland, you know, but I cover Donegal as well. And sometimes I'd be in Sligo.
Wow. You really do love a wee road trip.
I love and I just sit with my thoughts. Like somebody said, do you not put on the radio? No, I love sitting thinking with my thoughts, you know.
In the silence. Yeah, definitely. I'm the same. I love getting into the car and just, silence. So you are Caroline Doherty, and it's Donegal Doula and Placenta Services. Yeah. Or /birth on Instagram. Yeah. But if you put Caroline, and we'll have the link again in the show notes as well. Yeah. Listen, thank you so much from my heart and womb to yours for being here and for sharing your medicine. And I hope that any mothers out there or people desiring to be parents will take something away from this that will be healing and helpful to them. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, folks. Bye. Thank you so much for watching the podcast and sticking around to the end. I am so excited to share with you about the awakening activation. You were never meant to stay hidden. You were born to shine, to set fires with your voice, to walk as the queen that you are. On the 6th of the 6th, 25, we are going to remember that. We rise together and we reclaim the fire that they told us to tame. Join the awakening activation. Your soul has been waiting for this moment. Click the link and I'll see you inside.